Hi, everyone. Hi there. Nice to see you. This is Shannon Port, and I welcome you to our live stream today. I'm Shannon Port from Art of the Feminine, and we are going to be taking a look at the lunar eclipse happening in Cancer at 20 degrees of Cancer on Friday, January 10th. And we are going to be looking at it through the lens of what I call the divine feminine wisdom and some of the tools I use in divine feminine astrology, which are really a synthesis of some powerful archetypal wisdom. And there is so much to look at here. I just have to say, we also have the Saturn Pluto conjunction happening exact on January 12th. So we'll be looking at that a little bit too. And all I can say is that anyone who's been watching the astrological transits, along with watching the world stage, knows that it is just uncanny what we are seeing unfold right now. Our world is going through a lot of changes, and so nice to see you. And so we're going to just talk about that. We're going to look at it. We're going to look at it through a positive lens as well, but we're going to also look at some of the discordant energies that are really coming to surface on the planet right now in a really big way. And so before I get started, I want to make just a reminder that January 15th, I'm starting the Light Body Woman 2020, which is the 8-week group mentoring program. And so I just want to remind you, if you're interested in that, the early registration is coming up, the early registration date, and I will post a link to that for anyone who's interested. That is a group that, oh, hello. That's a group. Oh, it's nice to see you guys. That's a group where I work with the really deep level wisdom for women, some of the divine feminine wisdom, and I'm calling it the divine feminine wisdom for the new decade. We're going to go really deep. We went really deep this fall, but this is really a time to integrate whatever gifts you have and whatever you're ready to birth. This is a time of birth. I just did the video, The Archetypes of 2020. And so if you didn't get a chance to see that, I ended up posting it on the channel, and there's so much information in that video, and it's just meant to stimulate creativity and to really open you to taking a look what we're seeing right now. And this goes along with the lunar eclipse that's happening in Cancer, is that we're seeing where I called it the rise of the divine feminine, because it's all in the archetypes. And so if you watch the video, you'll see them, that it's really, we're bringing the subconscious mind up. It's rising up so that we can see it, and it's meeting with the descent of the spirit, the high spiritual wisdom. So we have the subconscious mind rising up, and then we have the descent of what some people would call the Holy Spirit, which is really aligned with the galactic center. And we have a really powerful alignment of Pallas Athena conjunct the galactic center at the time of the lunar eclipse. So let's take a moment. And just, oh, nice to see you could join. I know this video is a little bit later, so good to see you. There's so much happening. First, I want to say, let's take a look at what's happening in the world. And so right now, two of the major events that are happening right now, I would say the most important thing that we have happening are the fires in Australia. And there's millions upon millions of acres burning right now. And it's so significant that that's taking place at this time as we enter this new decade. And so we just want to take a moment and really send powerful energy. I've seen a lot of people posting things about music to bring water and to bring some relief, but we really want to just, it's a very powerful area on the planet. It's a very powerful vortex. So we want to just take a moment and send some light there. We also have the discord that's happening between the United States now and the Middle East. And so I want to start off by saying, and I don't know if anyone else has mentioned this, but when I pulled up the chart for the president of the United States, I saw something really powerful. And again, I don't know if anyone else has mentioned this, but he has Saturn at 23 degrees of Cancer. And I pulled this up on a few different charts for him. And so this is really really, really big because the lunar eclipse is happening in Cancer at 20 degrees. And so that means it's going to be conjunct his Saturn. He also has Venus at 25 degrees of Cancer. And so those are also both opposite the Pluto-Saturn conjunction and square to Eris and Aries. And so we have, it's a karmic period for the ruler of the US. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how these events unfold. And so let's look at some of the, let's talk a little bit about Cancer. So the sign of Cancer is where the lunar eclipse is. The Cancer, and this goes so powerfully with what we talked about in the archetypes of 2020, because Cancer is the sign of the moon. It's ruled by the moon, and it's the sign of the mother energy. It's a sign of all of our own inner mother and also our ability to birth. For me, it represents birthing from the subconscious, but it also represents our ability to birth from our own heart and from our own creative imagination. We also have on this axis of Cancer and Capricorn representing the ability to pull spirit through into matter. And that falls in the father energy, which is really a feminine sign. We talked about that a couple of videos back. And then Cancer is where the eclipse is taking place. It also rules the home. It even rules it rules the home in terms of the country and where we call our home. And so right now, with the discord on the planet, we're seeing people's homes and their homelands being challenged with this energy that's coming up. Let me see. What else do I want to say about Cancer? That it also rules our inner foundation. And so individually right now, with all of the energies that are in Capricorn right now for the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, we're looking at how we individually are able to create. It's an election year in the United States. So a lot of people are looking at what the government can provide in the US in terms of how it can help the people and make our system a little bit more fair in terms of the financial system and our medical system and insurance and many across the whole platform. But this is also a time of reevaluating how we're able to provide for ourselves and how we're able to really generate our own resources. This is key right now. This is what's really, really big, because there's a lot of poverty on this planet, and there's also a lot of lack. There's a lot of people struggling right now. We've all been through it. We're going through spiritual awakening and spiritual struggles, but it's really one of the lessons that we're learning to integrate is to remember each one of us is God disguised in human form. And I wrote down a quote that I wanted to say today, and I think it's by Emerson, and I'm paraphrasing it now, but Emerson said, "Every human being is God in disguise." And what that means is that we all have the power to generate resources from within. We've just forgotten how to do that. And that doesn't mean that we're going to need to look at changes in rulership and distribution of wealth on the planet, but it's really important. I believe in the age of Aquarius, which we're entering right now, we're going to need to look at how we re-educate ourselves, first of all, in working as a group, working in communities, sharing resources, cooperating with each other, and also being able to use the resources we have within to provide for ourselves, because it's only an illusion that we can't do that. We'll look at that a little bit more, but I want to look at the planets really quick and just talk about where they are. Then we'll talk a little bit more about Capricorn, and I'll see if anybody has questions. So right now, what's significant, so the lunar eclipse is happening in Cancer. The lunar eclipse is when the moon goes into the Earth's shadow. And so what really happens is that the moon is already representative of the subconscious mind, but when it goes into the shadow, it's going into the underbelly. So a lunar eclipse is like really, really going into the deepest, darkest, hidden places of the collective human consciousness. And so what we have right now, especially with what's happening with the US and the Middle East right now, and just the crazy energy that's been stirred up at this time, I just want to say it's in perfect alignment with anybody who's been watching this has been ready and waiting for it. Everything that's unfolding right now is so aligned with these conjunctions and so aligned with the dismantling of the patriarchy. It's really happening. And I wanted to say, I was thinking about this today, that we can see how absurd and insane it is. And I'm talking about the shadow side of the patriarchy. I'm not talking about the shadow of the male energy on the planet whatsoever, but we're talking about the shadow of the patriarchal energies that run this world and the war games that we see. When you take a step back, especially looking through the lens of the sign of Cancer and the mother energy, which is birthing on the planet, you can see it's insanity. It's foolishness. It's kids play, but not in a good way. These games that we play with each other, we are so ready to move on to a new way of life. There's no wisdom. We've been talking about this a lot, and this is really the birth of wisdom, of true intelligence. And what we're seeing play out right now is it's so much from the ego and so much from the underbelly of the unresolved level of human consciousness, that it's beginning to show itself, and it's beginning to topple down. There's going to be a lot of tower energy and a lot of dismantling in this next year. So I want to just say, really, really get really friendly with the tools that you have to stay sane and to stay balanced during these times, because we're going to see a lot of upheavals and a lot of change. And I don't mean that to say that to project darkness, but we can see it already. There's a lot of energies that need to come to the surface in order to heal. So we have Pallas Athena. Pallas Athena represents wisdom, and she's at the galactic core right at the time of this lunar eclipse in Cancer, which is happening on January 10th. This is the end of the world as we know it. And that's why I called it End of the World as We Know It. Everything's changing. So the world that you want to build right now is the world that you're going to project out onto the world stage. And so think about what kind of world you want to create, and then gather with people. This is a time of building rather than defining ourselves. We can define ourselves with what we're against. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's more powerful right now to define ourselves with what we're aligned with. Because when we define Pallas Athena is right at the galactic core, opening the wisdom that's the substance that's meant to bring us into what I just talked about, being able to create from our own inner divine mother, which is our birthing principle. When you know what you want, when you know what you stand for, it's 100 times more powerful than knowing what you're against. When we've put all our creative energy in what we're against, on a very strange metaphysical level, we empower that and we build it up. And so we can see right now the things we're against are so obvious. But I wanted to say, so we have Pallas Athena, we have Jupiter conjunct the South Node. So that means it's a karmic time. I almost call this video Karmic Awakening, because we're seeing the results of our past ignorance. What we're seeing is all of our ignorance come into plain view. And so all of the Capricorn rules our institutions, our governments, our banks. It rules our financial system. And so everything that is built on a foundation that doesn't truly serve the collective in a brilliant, beautiful way, like we're moving into the age of Aquarius, where we're going to see a whole new system, is meant to be seen in the highest way and be now showered with wisdom of the new way of creating on this planet. So we also have Jupiter is going to expand the South Node and make it really, really potent and make us really, really aware. And we're seeing that already right now. We're seeing that with what's happening with the US and Iran. So we also have the Sun conjunct Mercury opposite the full moon. So the Sun conjunct Mercury. So the Mercury is the mind. It's also communication. And the Sun rules our collective ego as well, opposing the moon, which is our collective unconscious mind, subconscious mind, in 20 degrees Cancer. And remember, the moon is conjunct the US president's Saturn. So it's bringing a very karmic energy to light. Now, I don't want to cast a judge. I'm not even, by saying that, I'm not casting political judgment, even though I have my feelings about what's happening. It's just, it's powerful to see where he's at in his cycle. It's a karmic time. So it's make it or break it. In other words, it's make it or break it, big time. So we have the sun. So this is a time of communication, mass communication. There's going to be big information revealed around this period in this first half of January with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, with the lunar eclipse in Cancer. We have Ceres at 21 degrees Capricorn. So we already have Jupiter, Sun, Mercury, and now Ceres. Ceres is the goddess of our abundance, of our wealth, of nurturing, of food, of how the mother nurtures her children. And so we have the mother energy in there as well. And then we have Saturn and Pluto conjunct at 22 degrees of Capricorn. So just taking a moment to remember what Saturn and Pluto are all about. Oh, I'm so glad you could make it live. Oh yeah, let me know where you're tuning in from. It's always fun to see who's live and where you're at right now. And I'd love to hear what's really happening where you're at and how people are feeling about the events in the world. This is, in fact, if you're seeing this video after, please, in the comments, let me know what's happening where you live and how people are feeling about these changes. These are big. I mean, this is a big, big, big time. We were talking about the fires in Australia, but the way I'm seeing it, the world is really lit and on fire right now. Everything is awake. So the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is about dismantling. It's about deconstructing. It's connected to governments. It's connected to karma. It's connected to physical. Saturn governs form. It governs physical form. So it can mean it could mean the dismantling also through. It's traditionally, this conjunction has been associated with an eruption of fighting and of war, of discord. It has a disruptive, eruptive kind of feel. And so that's the conjunction that we're seeing right now happening at this time. It's on. And so anybody who's been watching this knows that the energies we're seeing, first of all, the new decade started with a bang, and we can all feel that we're definitely in a new energy. And I'm just curious if any one of you guys can feel that. And if you want to, I agree. Those of us who are balanced are so ready to move on from this patriarchal world. Wisdom is coming in, and it's so powerful. We just have to grab a hold of it. That's true. And also, we talked about not looking away. It's not a time to look away, but it's not a time to fall apart either. You don't want to fall apart, and you don't want to go to fear. In fact, I've been reading all the papers more than I ever have. I'm actually quite up, and I'm following it because I'm really interested in how it plays out in human consciousness. So the zodiac governs the human level. Let's talk about consciousness a little bit. We have different levels of consciousness. When you think of people who are really awake or awakening, we're moving into more of. It's so big. It's so big. We're moving into more of an angelic awakened consciousness. So if you're awake right now and you're receiving, and you look out and you realize what's going on, and you're living in your heart, this is really about being able to see through the wisdom of the heart. If you've awakened compassion, if you've awakened reason, but through the heart, you're moving into a more angelic consciousness of the human. It's different than the base human level. Base human level consciousness is ruled mostly by what I sometimes call the desire-fear cycle, but also by the carnal elemental forces. And so that means we move in terms of what we want to consume or eat, or we move by fight or flight. We move by just taking care of our basic needs, survival, and basic needs also like love, like shelter, like success, like being in the, fame. If you want, that's a very human thing at some point, to want to rise up and be recognized. Those are all very human, and there's nothing wrong with them. They're all very good. But when we're just moving in an unconscious way by the elemental forces, we're kind of going whichever way the wind blows. And that's when astrology really affects us, because we just kind of move. The astrology is about how the elements pull on the subconscious elements in our own being. Down in Austin, Texas. Oh, that's great. A total, look for what you're going to say. So this is about moving into the higher energies where we work with the elements, but we're not pulled by them. We're not at their mercy, because when we're on the elemental wheel, we're on the wheel and we want to be in the center. And I talk a lot about the center, and divine feminine astrology is about the galactic core, and it's about operating from that sacred center where we find union and where we're able to actually create and create our own sustenance and our own world through those elements rather than to be toppled down by them. So we have all this energy in Capricorn. This is really highlighting a restructuring of the patriarchy. And so we're just going to leave it at that. That for Capricorn energy, it's about how we create the instant. This is what I wrote down that I want to say this. Oh my gosh. And then I have a few other really good things I want to get to before I close out. A few more quotes. The institutions that we see in the world are actually the programmers of our consciousness. So when we look at the physical institutions, when we look at governments, when we look at all of the systems, our medical system, our financial system, our religions, those institutions are archetypes that program us. We build those institutions and then they build us. What Capricorn is really about is creating structure in our consciousness so that we're creating structure in consciousness so that we can create the forms that we want to create, rather than having the outer forms dictate to us what we are and what we have to create. So this is a whole deconstruction of those energies. The true meaning of Capricorn is very, very powerful. It's not about bondage. It's about liberation. It's ruled by the devil. And, but it's about liberating by understanding how to work with the archetype. I'm just going to take a quick peek at it's from Yorkshire Libras. Can see it, but younger folk think nothing is wrong or going to change. Good to focus on staying calm and realize transfer. Yeah, the younger people are, and I love it. I love working with the younger people because they have such a good attitude, and I love it. They're ready to be here. The thing is that they're not all just turning away. A lot of the younger, and I know I have a Gen Z for a child, but a lot of them came in wired for this. They're ready for this. When I talk to my son, it's so cool because he's ready. He gets it, and he keeps up with everything in current events, but he can sense it. The ones who are awake, there's also a lot. There's a shadow side of that too, and a lot of kids that are programmed from the smartphones and from all the technology. But the truth is that the truth is that the millennials, the tail end millennials and younger, there's something inside the DNA that's ready for this and ready to build the new and ready. I'm going to say an Einstein quote because this is kind of like sheds a little light on what's happening. But they're just ready. They came in on their mission. They're ready to do it. And so we have to applaud them and support them. This time is about uplifting each other and supporting each other. So let me just really book through the rest of the planets. The main emphasis is in Capricorn, but we also have Eris getting ready to go direct in Aries, squaring Eris, the goddess of discord, squaring all of these planets, including the president, Saturn and Venus, in Cancer. But she's also squaring the lunar eclipse and squaring the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. I mean, it's amazing. It's truly, truly amazing, this energy. And then we have Uranus stationing direct on January 11th, the day after the lunar eclipse, along Eris is stationing direct. Moon at 20, it's a north node. This is a north node eclipse. That means the eclipse is highlighting positive change, and it's in the sign of the mother. I've done a lot of talking about the cosmic mother, the return of the mother energy. The return of the mother energy is the remembering how to birth our reality. We are all mothers. It's not just the mother archetype, which I work with a lot at Art of the Feminine, but it's meaning that it on the feminine side of polarity, the female energy on the planet, but it's also about our inner mother, that we are all able to tune in and access the power of our own imagination and our own resources in order to change our surroundings. And it starts in our own home. I've been talking a lot about this, but our home is our first temple. Our body is our first temple. Then we have our physical home, and then we have our inner circle of people that we work with and love. It's important to start from the core and move out. We have to start from the very nucleus of our own being, get our own being in order, then our space, make our space sacred. Capricorn rules space. Cancer rules the home and space. And then start with those we love, and then start with our own resources and move out, because also the more resources we have, the more change we can make on the planet. So having resources is in service of the divine will at this time. So it's very, very powerful. So I'm going to just say a couple more things. Capricorn rules material goods, wealth, abundance, structure, form, the way we create institutions and the family lineage. Cancer rules home, the hearth fire, support, our inner structure and foundation, the moon, the subconscious mind. We said a lot of that. So I wanted to say an Einstein quote that I saw. I'm kind of paraphrasing this quote too, but it has to do with the discord on the planet. And this is recorded apparently in one of the libraries that keeps all of his records as well, that he said, I don't know which weapons will be used to fight in World War III, but I do know that World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones or spears. It was something like that. And I've seen this quote several different ways like that, but I'm paraphrasing. I don't know what weapons we're going to fight World War III with, but I do know that World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. So there's this idea that we're getting ready to see a shift in what we have, and we're meant to have technology in the age of Aquarius, but there may be a time where resources shift. And I was actually just talking to one of you who's on here today. I was talking with Anya, and we were talking about, I was just saying how we're going to have to really go back and learn what's important. We're going to have to know our priorities, our ready, available things. We're relearning how to work with the basics. She was saying, yeah, it's like a circle, and we're going back to the very beginning. And that is one of the archetypes for ascension, that it's like a snake biting its own tail. We're going back to a simpler time. There may be a period where we have to do with fewer resources and remember what it's like to create from our heart and with each other. When we have to remember where we have to remember love, respect, honor, compassion. These are the things that we need. What led us to this? When you look out on the planet and see the whole planet erupting right now, and we see the patriarchal war games and the diminishing of the feminine creative power to birth, what is that really saying about the balance of the masculine and feminine on the planet? There's many ways to look at it, but I talked about this in the archetypes of 2020. It represents, as all the axes do, but they represent the father-mother codes of creation and really balancing masculine and feminine. Huge imbalance. At the top of the structure, we have the shadow side of patriarchal energy, which has dominated the creative force. And that, it's like we're almost going to have to do away with so many things to remember what's real and what the truth is of our power. And so I'm just going to leave it at that. All right. Oh, there's more comments. I didn't even see this. It has like sticks and stones fighting. Yeah. Yeah. And just not, we may destroy a lot. I mean, a lot of things could be destroyed. I'm not seeing it that way. I'm not seeing a mass destruction, but even on other levels, there may be a temporary loss of some of our resources that we take for granted. So let's see. So community is important. Creating we covered a lot of this. So I just want to say that, let me just see if I had anything. Yeah, the lunar eclipse is the planet moving into the shadow, is the moon moving into the shadow of the earth, and that really, really heightens. So make sure to be aware at this time, observe, write, be in your heart, be with people you love. It's also a time of celebration. 2020 is also, there's a huge momentum of moving into the age of Aquarius. I know I am really, really excited right now about everything that's coming in 2020. So I don't mean to make this all doom and gloom, but as far as what we're seeing right now with the dismantling of the patriarchy, it's definitely on. Does anybody have anything you want to mention before I close out? I would love to hear from you, and I'd also love to hear where you're at. Um, all right. I think I'll close with a mantra. So I just want to say that there's many simple mantras. I actually I recommend working with sound and working with I recommend working with anything that's devotional that raises your heart frequency. I just want to close with that. Right now, vibrate your heart. There's many ways to do that. There's certain practices that can make you feel alive with what you really are. When you connect to the source of what you really are, all of this becomes a picture show that you're watching, and you realize that you can happy new year. You realize you can really project what you are feeling, because what we feel, we create. Our feelings are the most creative force that we have. So find a way to, we're going to talk more about this. I'm going to do the January solar feminine activation codes. We'll talk more about this. I'm going to start to close out today, but let's close out with I am in the 7 directions, just as a blessing. And I want you guys to really download this. It's so simple. Just seeing your light emanate into your auric field. And then you can also do it for your children and do it for your loved ones. So just repeating after me, seeing the light of the sun go from your heart into your field. I am before me. I am behind me. I am at my left. I am at my right. I am above me. I am below me. I am unto me. And then you take a really deep breath in and hold it for just a moment. Suspend the breath under your navel. It builds up a little bit of prana, and then let it all out. And we seal it with I am, I know I am. I am, I am, I know I am. I am, I know I am. So good to see you guys. Oh, it's so good to see you. Make sure, please like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on the divine feminine wisdom in the coming year in 2020. So I'd love to have you. I'd love to, you're seeing this one. This isn't a live stream. Leave comments and I will come back and look at them. And make sure, if you're interested in the 8-week Light Body Woman group mentoring starting January 15th, divine feminine wisdom for the new decade, make sure to check out the link. I'm going to come back and leave it in the description box. And I would love to have you. It's a powerful time. It's a powerful time to do anything where you gather in groups and where you really, really sync up with the wisdom. Find your friends, find your community, and be with each other and celebrate each other and love each other. That being said, so good to see you. So good to see you live. I'll see you next time, and big blessings for the lunar eclipse in Cancer, and for our planet, and for Australia, for the whole globe right now, sending love out to the whole globe, and for the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. God bless us, Goddess bless us. And that being said, namaste.